Well, welcome. Thank you for being here tonight. I'm Pastor Chris. It is great to have you here. And how many of you are fired up because you had a nap today? Yes. Oh, man, that was glorious. All my kids were out of the house. My wife was somewhere, and I was like, let's turn the fan, and the Twins came on, and it was golden. So there you go. The Twins won. It was super awesome. So anyway, that being said, I'm glad you're here tonight for the financial learning experience. Listen, these things happen. This is an opportunity for us to grow, to be challenged because of the generosity of Fountain Springers that allows us to have Joe Sengel come to be a part of this. If you do not have one of these booklets, I would encourage you to go back to the back of the auditorium and grab one. Make sure you have that. That will help guide you through the content this evening. And we are so glad that you've taken this step. I look forward to Joe sharing with you. And this is just a great experience. Joe has been a friend of Fountain Springs for a while, and I've known him before that. And I continually am just appreciative of what he brings and how he brings it, and believe that you will be blessed and benefited from it. So at this time, I would love to pray, and then we're going to have Joe come. So let's bow for a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you so much for today, for this opportunity to grow, to be challenged, for the opportunity to learn and to press in, maybe to an area in which we maybe haven't pressed in like you would desire us to. But whatever it is, I'm excited about what we're going to learn, how we're going to be able to grow, and if we're willing to take that next step of applying it, how powerful it could be in our lives. Bless Joe. Thanks for the time that he spent with us and how he'll share with us here in a few moments. Thank you, God. You're awesome. Amen. All right. Would you welcome Joe Sengel?
Awesome. Fired up. Come on. Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. Who's fired up? Yes. We're going to talk about fired up finances. It's going to be amazing. Everybody should have a booklet that looks like this. I want you to look at a few things here in the book. One of them is I want you to look at page number 11. Page number 11 is an important page. Page number 11 is an action item list. And my hope and prayer is at least one time tonight, you think of something about your finances or whatever that you say, I need to do that. And when you say, I need to do that, go write it down. And that's very important because tomorrow is Monday, and in the busyness of life, you might forget what it is you need to do. Turn one page forward in the book, and you'll see that all of the scripture that I'm going to be sharing tonight is listed there. So, good news, you don't have to scribble all that stuff down. It's here in page 9. And then I want you to also look at the back of the booklet. The back of the booklet is our web address. That's where all of our free tools are located. That's our phone number. If you ever have a financial question, you can call us between 8 and 5 Eastern time, so 6 and 3 out here in the Mountain Time. And that's our email address where if you ever have a financial question, you can email us, and we'll help you out at no cost. And so we love to help you guys. And we're going to fill in the blanks here in a minute, starting on page 4. It'll be about 3 or 4 minutes before we start doing that. I want to call your attention to this card that you received as well. If you give your name and email address, we'll send you an email probably on Tuesday, if not Wednesday, which is a link to all the tools we teach here tonight. It's kind of a keeper email. We promise not to spam you. Also, it's got 3 different words that describe your financial situation: struggling, stable, or surplus. That allows us to serve you the best. And we're going to talk about these other 3 options here in just a minute. A couple other things. I'm on social media. So if you want to be the closest of friends on Facebook, it's Joseph Sengel. You can add me as your friend. We can be the closest of friends there. If you just want to get personal finance stuff, you can like the I Was Broke Now I'm Not page. And that's all about small business finance and personal finance. And then we're also on Twitter at I Was Broke and at Joe Sengel. As I mentioned, all the tools that I mentioned here tonight are free at our website at IWBNIN. That stands for I Was Broke, Now I'm Not.com. And all of our tools are there. There's over 100 of them. And in a news flash, there's going to be 100 new ones added in the next 2 months. We're super excited about that. We've been working on them for nearly a year. Since I was here last, I have also launched a podcast. This podcast is called the Monday Money Tip Podcast. Guess what day it comes out on? There we go. This is how I find the sarcastic people who say Tuesday, But it's on Mondays. And my goal with this podcast is to provide right now relevant information in a drive time podcast. So it's about 24 to 27 minutes. And we talk about current money events and then we talk about a right now relevant topic. And me and my co-host Megan Hibbard host it, and it's really caught on. We're really amazed at how well that is. It's a weekly podcast, and you can subscribe to that through Apple, iTunes. You can do it through Google Play or Stitcher or anywhere that podcasts are found. It's located, and we'd love for you to listen to that. If you want to receive an email with the show notes and all the links we provide with that on each Monday, you can check that first box to say, I want to receive the Monday Money Tips from I Was Broke, Now I'm Not. And that way you'll get the actual show notes along with the podcast itself. And so we're going to go on a little journey tonight, a money journey, and we're going to talk about kind of a cross-section of financial journeys. So if you're struggling, you'll be happy to know we're going to talk about how to have a budget that works, how to save money, and how to kill some debt. If you're kind of in this stable situation, we're going to talk about some investing and how to amp that up so that you can move on up to surplus mode. And if you're in surplus mode, you'll be happy to know we're going to talk about investing and how do you leave an inheritance for the long haul. It's going to be awesome. And we're going to start by talking about 4 core principles. And after that, we're going to talk about all this different investing stuff, the oxen principle, I call it. When we're done with that, we're going to talk about the importance of planning and having a budget. We're going to do a budget together. That ought to be interesting. After that, we will calculate your debt freedom date. If you know about how much you owe on your debts and how much you pay per month, you'll be able to use one of our tools right here as I talk to calculate your debt freedom date. When we're done with that, we're going to calculate how much money you need to retire well. And so if you're not retired yet, but you would like to, we're going to calculate how much you need to have stored up to retire well. Are you fired up about that? Oh, yeah. After that, we're going to call Sister Carrie Underwood up to the stage to sing the song, Jesus, Take the Wheel, because that's going to be a very big number. And then we're going to talk about how compound interest can help you get there. And we're going to do that in just 8 hours. Are you fired up? No. We will be done no later than 7:30. So listen fast. We're going to go through a lot of stuff. So let's talk about some core principles that I learned that have helped me. The first one is there's power in working together. We're on page 4. And if you see a capitalized underlined word, that's your sign in Q to fill in a blank. There's power in working together. How many of you know there's power in partnerships? Think about this. I don't know how a printer works. You know, the printer that prints out paper, you know, from the computer, prints out the paper. I don't know how all that ink transfers to the paper. All I want to know is that I press print and it comes out of the printer. Who's with me? Right? And so I have partnered with a printing machine company who does know how that works. And usually it does. Now they charge too much for ink, right? But it actually works. So I partner with them. And you've got partnerships all throughout your life. You partner with your favorite grocery store. They provide groceries to you. And you know where stuff is in that store. You partner with Amazon or whatever to get stuff delivered in a day. Whatever that is. But there is power in working together in your finances. If you're married, it's important to work together. And I don't mean, honey, you fill out the top part of the check and I'll come over and sign it. Or you fill out the online bill payments and I'll come over and review them before the submit button is clicked. What I'm saying is you agree together on where the resources, the financial resources God has given you, are going to be utilized. There's power in working together. Now, if you're single, you still need wise counsel in your life. And so you need a coach, a money coach. And we're going to talk about some ways to find a good money coach in your life. And so there's power in working together. The second thing that I learned is to avoid the debt trap. Avoid the debt trap. I do want to be clear, debt is not a sin. The Bible is clear. It is not wrong to have debt. It does talk about debt with cautious tones. Proverbs 22:7 says, the rich rule over the poor and the borrower is servant to the lender. And Romans 13:8 says, let no debt remain outstanding except the continuing debt to love one another. So every time it speaks to debt, it does it with tones of caution. But can we all say that we have known someone or we have known ourselves to fall into the big, deep, dark financial hole and abyss of debt? I have. And here's something I've learned about being in the hole financially. When you're way down in the hole, like I mean in the hole, like there's a hole in the hole, you know what I'm talking about? Right? When you look up the definition of broke in the dictionary, you see your picture there, right? When you're in the hole, there's no vision in the hole. You can just see the side of the hole. Even if you hop, you can't see out of the hole. And so here's the correlation I've discovered in my own financial journey is when I had high debt, I had low vision for my life. When I got rid of the debt, I had clear vision for my life. And so if you're trying to figure out what's next for you or what the big thing you want to accomplish with your life, and you have a bunch of debt, I encourage you, avoid this debt trap. It will position you to be able to have clearer vision for where you're headed. The third thing that I learned is to develop a plan for your life. Develop a plan for your life. You need a plan for your life. Do you have a plan for your life? We usually have some plans for our life. A lot of times they're up here. They're not written down anywhere. But when you develop a clear plan for your life, this is part of this vision thing that in Habakkuk 2:2, anybody read Habakkuk this week? Right? You know, I know everybody read it. It's near Haggai, how many knew Habakkuk was in the Bible, right? But Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision and make it plain, that a herald may run with it. It's important to write this stuff down. Proverbs 29:18 says, without vision, the people perish. It's important to have a plan for your life, a God-given plan for your life. And when you have that, it creates the reason for you to plan your finances. It creates the reason for you to plan your finances. And that's super important because let's just be real. You're not going to do it. Most of us are not going to do a budget just because it's the right thing to do is to do a budget. Most of us, when we hear the word budget, like we start to break out in hives. Right? It's like, this is not good. This is awful. Like, that's how I am. I'm a spender. Where are my spenders tonight? Identify yourselves. Right? And so when I heard the word budget and planning my spending, I was like, oh my goodness, this budget makes me say no. My name is Joe, and this saying no interrupts my flow, so it's got to go. And I realized that the budget itself was not inspiring to me, but making progress towards funding a dream God had placed in my heart, well, that helped me stick to the less fun things, budgeting, sticking through the long haul to pay off debt, investing, things like that. It helped me stick to it. It gives me the reason. And it's that calling in your life that will give you the reason to stick to it. The fourth core principle I learned that I employed is to put God first. To put God first. You know, throughout God's word, you see this thing that happened where it said, bring the first fruits. In Malachi 3:10, it says, bring the whole tithe, which is the first 10%, the first fruits, into the storehouse, that there may be food in my house, says the Lord Almighty. And test me in this, see if I don't throw open the floodgates, pour out so much blessing. I don't have room enough to contain it. And Luke 6:38 says, give and it shall be given unto you, pressed down, shaken together, for the same measure you use, it'll be measured back to you. You see all these verses related to putting God first, and with your money, but also with your life. And so this is a principle, and a powerful principle, a spiritual principle that is connected to our finances. And so if we look at those four core principles, the power of working together, avoiding the debt trap, making sure we have a plan for our life, a clear plan for our life, that gives us the reason to stick to that plan for our finances, and putting God first. These are the four core principles that my wife, whose name is Jen and I put together, and we embarked on that journey December 2nd of 2002. July of 2003, we put together our first budget. Get fired up. Now, I did not want to do a budget. I was watching my beloved Chicago Scrubs lose another baseball game. And back then, the Cubs were so bad that April 1st was the day they were mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. And so I was taking a nap for real. And my wife came in and said, hey, Joseph, what do you think of this budget I've come up with? And I immediately shrank back from it and was like, absolutely not. But she was cute, so I decided to look at it. And then I realized it could be an Excel spreadsheet. Yes. And so I put together an Excel spreadsheet, and we worked together on the budget, and we started to address our debt. We stopped incurring new debt. We were able to develop this clear plan for our life. We started talking about dreams we wanted to fund, and it gave us this reason to stick to that budget. And in that budget, we put God first, the full tithe. In July of 2003, and it was a transformative moment in our life. It not only transformed our finances, It transformed our marriage, and it transformed us spiritually. And from that moment on, we've been able to be givers. We've been able to be savers. We've been able to be investors. And I want that for you. And that's what I'm going to try to teach tonight in the next hour and 45 minutes or so. Are you guys fired up and ready to go? Awesome. So let's talk about some oxen. I wrote a book about this because I ran across a verse back when I was broke, and it was called Proverbs 14:4. You can see it on page 5, next to that beautiful ox there. It says, where there are no oxen, the manger is empty, but from the strength of an ox comes an abundant harvest. And when I read this verse, I just could not get past this verse. It was like God parked me right there, and I had to keep rereading this verse. And it says, where there are no oxen, the manger is empty, but from the strength of an ox comes an abundant harvest. And I felt God say, read it again. I'm like, what is wrong with me? So I read it again. Where there are no oxen, the manger is empty. From the strength of an ox comes an abundant harvest. And read it again. Okay. When I read it again, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I am so confused. And what happened was God was trying to teach me something, a principle. And what I realized is I was prompted to look at this verse closer, and I realized that there are two outcomes in this verse. That Solomon is writing about two outcomes. Take a look at that verse there on page 5. What are the two outcomes you see there? Talk to me. That's right. You could have an empty manger or an abundant harvest. And so let's fill those two blanks in, and then we'll talk about it. You could have an empty manger, or you could have an abundant harvest. Do you see it? Where there are no oxen, there's an empty manger. From the strength of an ox comes an abundant harvest. So now I think this is true for you. See if this is true. If you had the choice between having an empty manger or an abundant harvest, I think you would choose an abundant harvest 100 times out of 100 opportunities. If that's true, say yes. Okay, that's awesome. Now watch this. What does the writer say makes the difference between having an empty manger or an abundant harvest? Talk to me. That's right. Oxen and the strength of an ox. So write that down. Oxen make the difference. Where there are no oxen, there's an empty manger. From the strength of an ox comes an abundant harvest. And so I was like, God, are you calling me in the cattle business? Like, I am so confused. Like, I'm going to be selling cattle at Belfouche. It's going to be awesome. But here's what I know. I was reading this, and I said, you know what? An empty manger. What is a manger? Talk to me. It's a food trough, right? It's a food trough. Okay? So Jesus was stuck in a food trough. Didn't fit as good in the Christmas song, right? Away in a food trough. Didn't sound as good. But like, for real, animals had licked it. Like where Jesus was laid, animals had licked it. For real. I'm sure there's sweet feed in his linen clothes. I know it. Anyhow, so watch this. You could either have an empty manger or an abundant harvest. And here's what God spoke to me and said, that it doesn't mean you won't have anything to eat. It just means you'll have nothing that's left over if you don't have oxen. And so I started thinking about this and saying, you know, in third world countries, and I had a bunch of Amish neighbors where I grew up, they still use oxen. And they till up the fields, and, you know, an Amish farmer, you know, he goes out to his field, and is he going to use a hoe and a rake? Let's say a farmer is going to go out, he's going to farm, he's an Amish guy, he's going to farm 60 to 80 acres, he's farming that many acres, and he says to his wife, hey, baby, because I'm sure that's how he spoke to her, and said, hey, baby, I'm going to go out and I'm going to till up 80 acres with a hoe and a rake today. How far would you get with a hoe and a rake before your arms kind of like stop moving? Watch this. You'd have a nice garden, wouldn't you? But watch this. It doesn't mean you wouldn't have anything to eat. It just means you're going to have very little left over. And so they know that they need what? They need oxen. So which would you choose? If you had to manage 80 acres, would you rather have just a rake and a hoe, or would you like the help of some oxen? I'll choose the one on the right, you know, for $1,000, Alex. So watch this. A modern day farmer, they use a modern day ox. What do they call that? No, it's a John Deere tractor. It's got to be green. For full disclosure, you know, I love John Deere's. But here's what I know. that a farmer knows that it's ridiculous to try to farm without the help of a tractor or an ox. They know that there's no chance of an abundant harvest without that. And here's where God gave the revelation to me that said, even though I don't live on a farm, it doesn't negate my need to have financial oxen that help me carry the load. Here's the thing. Who is carrying the load in this picture? The farmer or the tractor, the ox? The tractor is. Who's guiding it? The farmer, right? With some GPS these days, right? So watch this. And even though you may not live on a farm today, it doesn't negate your need to have financial oxen helping you carry the load. If you want an abundant harvest, you can't just work for all of this income that you get. And so let's talk about this. There's two ways to produce income. There's not a spot to write this down, but there is a note section on page 4. And there's two ways to produce income. If you just summarize it up, one way is work equals get paid money. Don't work equals don't get paid money. It's called a job, right? And my kids learned this at a young age. I live in South Carolina, and my daughter, I remember when she was little, she would want money. And so I was like, you want money? You know, you need to get a job. And she's like, I'm 4. I'm like, yeah, but there's a job out in the yard waiting on you because I have these pine trees. They drop pine cones everywhere. I don't want to mow them, and it's a penny a pine cone. And she would race out there because she was motivated. She wanted a Care Bear. And she'd pick up pine cones in a hurry. And then I wouldn't have to mow them, and she picked up 100 at a time really fast. She got her Care Bear. But that's a lesson. But watch this. Even if you work half days, 12 hours a day, half days, you're limited on what you can produce. Is that true? My identical twin has decided to outperform the whole family. He's an emergency room physician. He earns, more than us, right? But he can also deal with like an eyeball hanging out of somebody's head, which is also more than I can do, right? So watch this. But if he doesn't show up, he doesn't get paid. He's still limited on what he can produce. And so the second way is what the wealthy know, and it is get paid whether or not you're working. That, my friends, is oxen that will carry the load for you. And so let me just set the stage here. If you're struggling, you're like, Joe, this is great. How do I make it to Thursday? Right? I'm doing this to cast vision for where you could be within the next 3 to 6 months. If you're in stable mode or surplus mode, I'm going to talk about stuff you can do right now, okay, tomorrow. And so let's talk about different types of financial oxen that help us carry the load. And why do we need financial oxen anyhow?
Because we don't want an empty manger.
That's it. We don't want an empty manger. And we want to be able to fund dreams. And there's also a day when we're going to be tired. And we want to retire. And we won't be able to do this type of work. And we need to have oxen that help us continue to have an abundance. Make sense? And so let's talk about some practical ways that you can do this. One way is company stocks, where you invest literally and purchase ownership of companies that are publicly traded. So how many of you recognize at least 10 names on this screen? At least 10. Okay, most of us, okay? Now watch this. You can become an owner of almost all these companies tomorrow when the stock market opens up trading at 7:30 a.m. your time. You can be. In fact, you got McDonald's here, you got Coca-Cola, you got Target, you got Apple, you got Microsoft, you got Unilever. Now here's the deal. This is super important. When you buy a share of stock of one of these companies, let's say AT&T. When you buy a share of stock in AT&T, you become a part owner of AT&T. So I'm going to use an app. Now I will tell you there's lots of investing places like E-Trade, TD Ameritrade, Scottrade, Ally Invest. My favorite is Schwab.com. They do not pay me to promote them, but I use them. We use them for all of our company IRA type stuff. But I like them because they're easy to use. And so I'm going to type in here AT&T. And AT&T, for full disclosure, I own AT&T stock. One share of stock of AT&T is priced at the end of trading Friday at $37.91. So for $37.91, plus or minus a few cents on Monday, you could become part owner of AT&T. Yes. Does that fire you up? Yeah. Okay. So you're part owner of AT&T. Who uses AT&T for your cell phone service? Anybody have AT&T, any other services you use from them? Right? Uverse or anything like that? Okay, now watch this. They have currently, if you buy one share, they have 7.3 billion shares. So by owning one share, you are a 7.3 billionth owner of AT&T. Does that give you direct access to the CEO's office where you walk in there and say, I own this place? All right, I have demands. You need to fix this. DirecTV needs to give a Sunday ticket to everybody for free. Start with me, right? All that stuff, right? Do you have access? Or would they say, call security? But watch this. This is awesome. Even though you're a 7.3 billionth owner, you have lassoed into this group of oxen, all the employees, the 400,000 or so employees of AT&T worldwide. So watch this. All of those employees, how are they earning income? Which way? Type 1 or type 2? It's type 1. They work for it to get paid money. Now, I think you'll know the answer to this question. Are they there to help AT&T make money or lose money? Make money. That's called profit. Who gets to keep the profit? The employees? Who gets the profits? The shareholders. Yes! So watch this. Their dividend yield right now is 5.38%. They pay 51 cents a quarter per share. So you get, for your $37.91, right now they pay $2.04 a year in profits to the shareholder. Are you fired up? That's 204 copper engravings of the great emancipator Abraham Lincoln, a penny. Are you pumped? Can you retire on that? No. But what if you had 1,000 shares? Gets more interesting. What if you had 10,000 shares? Do you see it? How do you get to 10,000 shares? Start with one. How do you start a journey of 20 miles? One step and then put another step. Does that make sense? And so this is literally lassoing into huge, vast herds of oxen. And, I kind of like it because I pay AT&T every month. I have my internet through them. I have DirecTV through them. And I like it because some of that money comes back to my pocket. Does that make sense? And so this is a practical type of ox that's available. Now, I do have a couple here I want to point out at. And one of them is this one, Radio Shack. I leave it here because I want you to know that sometimes oxen die. Has anybody ever had an investment die? Yeah. And so watch this. That is why in Ecclesiastes 11:2, it says, invest in 7 ventures, yes, and 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. And so I encourage you, this is one type of ox that is available to you, and it's available to all of us, and you can start to have some growth happen in your life. And what I love about it is, as you invest, hopefully you'll be able to have a harvest later and be able to experience this abundance that is mentioned in Proverbs 14:4. Now, to buy one share of all these stocks tomorrow morning would cost you about $3,500. Now, the average person can't start there, right? And so it is important to be diversified. The so-called don't have all your eggs in one basket. And so they created a type of other investment that allows you to get diversification, and that is something called mutual funds or exchange-traded funds. And these are just a few. There's over 10,000 mutual fund companies, but who recognizes it like 3 or 4 of these mutual fund companies? Okay? And so T. Rowe Price, American Funds, Vanguard, JP Morgan, PIMCO, and all of these mutual fund companies have various funds that you can invest in. So for example, the Investment Company of America Mutual Fund, of which I am a large shareholder, the stock ticker symbol is AIVSX. That mutual fund, the Investment Company of America, has a charter to invest only in American companies. Make sense? So they're not going to invest in Unilever because Unilever is a Dutch-British company. And so they invest only in American companies. It's been around since 1934. and its average compounded annual growth rate since 1934, which is older than my father, has been 12.1% growth per year. Now, there's been years that's went up 20, years that's went down 10, but the compound annual growth rate, the best measure of year-over-year growth, 12.1%. Is that pretty good? That's pretty good. And so Vanguard, so there's all of these also have like S&P 500 index funds, and 500, it's the Standard & Poor's 500, and that is the 500 companies they think best represents the American economy. They'll also have international growth stock mutual funds. Guess what type of companies they invest in? International companies that they think are growing. And it gives you this important thing called diversification because the individual mutual funds average between 200 and 1,000 different investments within it. And when you buy a little share of the mutual fund, you get fractional pieces of all the investments they're in. Does that make sense? Watch this. In your 401k or 457 or 403b, your type of investment account where you have mutual funds and you have money withheld from your paycheck to put in there, you literally are powering the American economy. Many of these mutual fund houses actually will have huge, mega millions of dollars, and that's how road projects get funded. They literally purchase the bond to build those roads with our money. And that's pretty amazing. And so this is a great way to invest. But it is still based, in general, on the stock market. And so many people are diversified, but all of their investments are solely in the stock market. And I want to encourage you to also be invested in stuff that's not as affected by the stock market. So let's talk about some other types of investment. One of them is real estate. Real estate. And real estate is one of my favorites. And whenever I look out through the Bible, I see people who owned real estate were being generous. In Acts 4:36 says, from time to time, those who owned land and houses sold them, brought the money, laid at the apostles' feet. A couple verses later, it says, Joseph, whom the disciples called Barnabas, which means son of encouragement, sold a field that he owned, brought the money, laid at the apostles' feet. And there's three major types of real estate. I'm going to rattle them off pretty quickly. One of them is commercial property. Okay, so when you go down the street down here and you see, what store do we see? We see the place where there's the Chinese restaurant and the dry cleaners and the nail salon. They're all in the strip mall there. Did you know somebody owns that strip mall? Like for real, like somebody for real owns it. So why not you? You're like, Joe, I'm trying to make it to Thursday. I get that. But why not you in the future? If you get a vision for it, it can happen. Because I think if you went and talked to every person who does own that type of property, there was a day they never dreamed they could own it. But through a series of good decisions and God's blessing upon it, they were able to acquire that. And think about this. The small business, the nail salon, the Chinese restaurant, the dry cleaner, the owners of those businesses, their business is their ox. Does that make sense? But watch this. They pay rent to the commercial property owner. So for commercial property, I call each of those openings, those store openings, I call those stalls for the oxen. Does that make sense? Now, so watch this. So the commercial property, a second type of real estate is residential rental property. So residential rental property can be as simple as renting out a room in your house. Now, does that cause some inconveniences? Yes, but it sure is awesome when they pay you Ben Franklin's every month to live there. My nephew got all excited when I went to Purdue. I kept dragging him up to Purdue football games to watch us get massacred by every opponent. We went 3-8, 3-8, 1-10, and 3-8 while I was there. And so, but he still went to Purdue, and he studied engineering, and he graduated and got hired as a civilian employee for the Crane Naval Base that's located in Indiana. It's kind of interesting that there's a naval base not on water. Anyhow, he works there, and he was single, no prospects, and he bought a 5-bedroom house. Why did he do that? Because he knew a bunch of the fellow employees there were actually 1-year contract government employees who were not going to move their whole family for a 1-year contract, and they worked 4 10-hour days, Monday through Thursday. And he knew that most of them would drive in early on Monday and stay Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. On Thursday night, they were headed back home to their family. And he rented out all 4 bedrooms in his house. And for 6 years, he never made a payment on his house. And by the time Laura showed up, and he's like, all right, y'all, you all got to leave, he had over half his house paid off. That's awesome. So think about that. That could be a type of ox. Another type of rental could be a single-family residence. It could be a duplex, a fourplex, or an entire ginormous, 1,000-unit syndicate next to a large university. And so that can be a great type of real estate. And my favorite type is raw land. Just land. They're not making much more of that these days. Except for that one big island in Hawaii. Except for I hear that's a hot real estate market right now. It's a bad joke. Do you know it's made over 770 acres of new land? That's awesome. That's more than a square mile in Hawaii. But anyhow, raw land is awesome, and that's what I own. I own over 70 pieces of raw property, and I grow trees and white-tailed deer. Get fired up. I'll be in a tree stand Tuesday morning. Watch my Instagram feed, right? And so real estate is awesome, timeless, and great. Another one is small business. Can be a great ox. Where are my small business owners in here? I have some small business owners. Okay, that's awesome. I see some people wondering whether or not they're small business owners. But if you have any type of small side hustle to generate income, you have a small business. And that can really help you fund big time dreams. And this is a fantastic one because as it can grow, you can really experience great blessing through it. Now watch this. Some people are not fully entrepreneurial. They like the idea of owning a business, but they don't like the idea of having to come up with all the ideas and all that. And so there's a subset of that called franchising. And franchising is a subset of small business, but it comes with overhead support where you get, marketing help, you get training systems for your employees, financial systems, and maybe even location assistance. And it can be a huge help. And all these companies that I'm going to show right here are franchise companies. And so I want to show these to you. So McDonald's, Taco Bell, Choice Hotels, Marriott, Hilton. I stayed at the True Hotel. I'd never heard of it before. It's part of the Hilton brand. And when you walk in, you can see in there, it says this hotel owned and operated by. That's the franchisee owner. I probably will never meet that owner unless you're here right now, this side of heaven. However, I gave them good U.S. currency to stay there. Does that make sense? And so franchises can be fantastic. If you want to be entertained while also learning and being educated about this, I encourage you, if you have a Netflix account, watch the movie The Founder. The Founder is the story of Ray Kroc and the McDonald brothers, where the McDonald brothers had created a fast, efficient way of making hamburgers, but they didn't see the franchising opportunity like Ray Kroc did. He was a paper cup and straw salesman and a ice cream machine salesman. But he saw it, and the McDonald brothers got a couple million. Ray Kroc became the billionaire empire owner, ended up owning the San Diego Padres and lots of other things. And that movie, The Founder, documents the story of franchising. And so it'd be very interesting for you to watch. The last type of ox I wanted to mention is a talent you possess. And so if you have a special talent, that could absolutely become an ox. So think about this. Whitney Houston, could she sing? Like we can all admit, she could sing. I learned in South Carolina, if somebody can really sing, they'll say, that girl, she could sing. And if some of us are honest, we would admit that our first album that we bought with hers was on an 8-track. For real. And watch this. Then we bought it again on a cassette tape. And then it got 8. Some people don't even know what that means. Some of us had painful memories of our tape getting 8. And then we bought it on a compact disc and digital audio. And then we stole it on Napster. We've all asked for forgiveness, I'm sure of it. And then you bought it for your iPod. And then you bought it again for your iPhone. And you've bought the same song 6 times. And so here's what I would say about a talent. If you have a talent, here's the statement that can help you, is if you can learn to systematize your talent, then you can monetize it. If you can systematize it, you can monetize it. Thomas Kincaid is the famous painter of light, right? It's estimated 1 in 4 American households has a copy of one of his paintings in their house or on a mug, on a calendar, a Thomas Kincaid painting. Why? Because they learned to make limited reproduction prints of it. Poor Van Gogh back in the day had to paint a new painting every time, right? I love to teach personal finances. How have we systematized it? Through books, online classes, free digital tools, things like that. And that's enabled us to monetize it so that we can go month after month and be able to help more and more people. And so I encourage you to think about your special skill sets, your special talents, and see how you might be able to systematize it. Some of you maybe, got this great intellectual idea or software idea, and you can actually patent that idea and then license it out. And that is a way of systematizing knowledge and intellectual property. And so that's an incredible way to do that. And so as you look at all this stuff, I want to ask the question, who here has you have at least one ox? Who has at least one ox? Okay. Now, as you looked at all these, who was prompted to think about another type of ox? You're thinking about getting another one. Okay. I want you to go to page 11 right now and kind of write down what you're thinking about. What's that next thing that you want to explore? Okay? So let me tell you a couple of things about investing, and then we'll move on. By the way, when I'm done with this talk, this little bit, I'm going to open it up for questions about investing for about 5 minutes also. I have some rules about investing, and I want to be clear, these are Joe Sangl rules. These rules, I don't find a place in the Bible for them, but I think it's wisdom. And it does say, Proverbs 15:22, seek wise counsel. I don't know if this is wise for you, but this is a Joe Sangl rule, okay? I just want to be clear. Here's my rule. If I think I might need this money within 5 years, if I have some extra money, if I think I need it in the next 5 years, I am not investing it. Because in short-term periods, the market can do this stuff, right? And so I say 5 years. And it's just not a random number. I said 5 years because when I look at the history of the stock market, if you choose any 5-year period, you can choose any 5-year period, 97% of the 5-year periods have made money. Sometimes a little, sometimes a lot. So that's a pretty good risk. 100% of all the 10-year periods have made money. Okay? So watch this. If it's 5 years or less, I put it in savings accounts. Now, some of you have savings, you have substantial savings, and it's at a bank making 0.01 or 0.04% interest. I encourage you to think about putting that money at an online bank. I'm going to list a couple of mine. They're also listed in the Next Steps area of the I Was Broke Now I'm Not website. My favorite banks are the ones that pay the highest interest. Seems reasonable, right? And so right now the best ones are Marcus, which is Marcus, Marcus.com. That is Goldman Sachs on Main Street Bank. They pay 2.00% interest, dollar minimum balance, no fees, FDIC insured. My second favorite is Ally, A-L-L-Y. They pay 1.90%. And they are also zero, a dollar minimum balance, no fees, FDIC insured, all these are. The third favorite is Discover Bank and American Express Bank. Discover and American Express have banks. They also pay 1.85% interest right now. And so this is important. That interest is probably going to go down 1/10 of a point or so because the federal funds rate was just lowered. But that's way better than 0.03%, right? And the other thing I like about online bank accounts is all of them have a feature where you can create sub-accounts within them. So that when you save money for different things like Christmas or car replacement or whatever it is, you can actually name the account car replacement, Christmas, vacation, annual insurance premium. And I like that because it gives me great clarity with my savings. Okay? So that's a 5-year rule. If I don't need the money in the next 5 years, I'm going to put it into an investment because there is this thing called inflation chomping at my money, and I need to keep pace and beat that. And so that's kind of my 5-year rule. Let me give you a practical way I have lived this in my own finances. So when my baby girl was born back in 1999, I was so fired up, and I was like, one of my dreams for my baby girl is that she would not graduate college owing Sally Mae. And so the first 4 years of her life, I continued to live broke and make broke decisions, and she helped amplify that. And when she was 4, though, I finally got it together, and we sat down and prepared this budget in July of 2003, and I opened a 529 college savings plan for her. A 529 is very similar to a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k in that you can contribute money to it, and that money will grow within mutual fund investments free of tax. Now, I am in South Dakota. You do not have state income taxes, correct? So as a result, I would point you, if I lived in South Dakota and I woke up tomorrow in your shoes, I would invest in Virginia's 529 College Choice Savings Plan. There's no special tax advantages here in South Dakota for you to invest in it here in your state's plan. So I would invest in Virginia's. It's managed by American funds, and it's the largest one in the nation. And you can use 529 money for any accredited college or university in the U.S. 50 states or its territories. And an added thing, you can use up to $10,000 a year for private school K through 12. It's pretty amazing. So watch this. So I started contributing $100 a month when she was 4 to her college fund because I was like, $100 a month is better than zero. And I didn't want to, but I had this dream, so I did want to. My selfish side didn't want to, but my dream for my daughter wanted me to. So I overcame my selfish side and set it up, and I made it automatic. So I didn't have to feel like it every month. And every month that happened, and about a year later, in February of 2004, we paid off all of our debt except for our house. It took us 14 months. I'll show you how I did that here in about 30 minutes. And so when I got debt-free, I increased it to $200 a month, okay? And then 2008 and 9 happened. And what happened to the value of that investment? Right? And I remember sitting there saying, this would have been better if I'd buried it in a hole in the ground. This is awful. This is terrible. And what I realized is I was parroting like a parrot, speaking back what I was hearing people say in the talking heads on TV. And I remember in 2010, I sat down at Christmas and actually did the math and said, what if I had just had it in a savings account? What would it? And I realized even though it had plummeted in value, I was still ahead of as if I had had it in a savings account. And so we kept doing $200 a month, and then she became a freshman in high school. Parents, doesn't that happen really fast? Like they go from baby to high school, like I don't know, really fast. And so now I'm in the 5-year window. We're going to need this money in 5 years. So I called the fund, and I moved 1 year's worth of college expenses to safe mode, out of investments. Why? Because I'm in the 5-year window. I can't recover if it collapsed in that 5-year window. And so in her sophomore year, I moved the second year's worth, her junior year, and it was an incredible thing in her senior year to go look at colleges and know for a fact the money was there and locked and loaded and ready to go. In fact, that account had grown to more than $100,000. I had put less than half that money in there. That is the power of oxen. And so my daughter, in 7th grade, right before 7th grade, I went for a run with her that summer. And I love running. I ran this afternoon again. And she went off and she just tore off. And I'm like, you need to slow down. You're going too fast. You're going to get exhausted and you're going to hate it. You need to learn how to pace yourself. And the truth is, she waited on me 4 times. Stopped and had to wait on me 4 times. She never got exhausted. So I realized she could run. So we took her over to the high school. The high school that we're at is T.L. Hanna. If you've ever seen the movie Radio, that's her high school with Radio. That Radio's still there. He's 56 years old. He's still a junior. It's an amazing, inspiring story with Cuba Gooding Jr. in it. But that's her high school. And she went over there in 7th grade, and she whooped up on everybody and was the fastest runner. And ended up being an all-state runner and was recruited by 119 colleges. and she actually went to school, and she needs hardly any of that money for college. You know, Malachi 3:10 says, if you'll test me, I'll throw open the floodgates and pour out so much blessing, and I have room enough to contain it. And I've got to live it because we don't need the money for that. And the beautiful thing for the 529 is all the money that's in there, if your child gets an academic or an athletic scholarship, you can pull out an amount equivalent to that scholarship free of penalty. So it's not stuck there. And so my daughter ran last year for the first time in college, and she made it to the national championships, NCAA national championships in cross country. And I got to go watch her run in snow in Pittsburgh. It was amazing. Not. And I think she might make it again if she's free of injury, and it's in Sacramento, California this year. Praise the Lord. But watch this. So I've told my daughter, this is my deal with my daughter. Hey, you've earned this scholarship. I will give you that amount every single year if you keep running and you don't date a bozo, right? Right? And you don't major in partying. I do have rules. And so we've already pulled out the first amount, and we have it sitting in savings, and we're pulling it out each year. And it's my goal to be able to present my daughter with that money when she graduates here. She's probably going to graduate a year early. And so that is the blessing of the Lord, and it's the power of oxen. And so that's how we've employed the 5-year rule. And so I'll open it up now for questions about investing. Talk to me.
Sir, on the 529, I go through that with my 2 kids. I believe I'm active duty, so I go through Nevada.
Okay. If you're already in Nevada's plan, it's an honor. I would give it an honorable mention plan, and it's not a big enough difference for you to move it. So I would leave it in Nevada's plan because you can still use it for any accredited college or university in the 50 states. So I would leave it at the Nevada plan if you've already got it going there. Great question. Thanks for your service too. Yes. I love the thrift savings plan and absolutely would invest it through your thrift savings plan. It gives you great options with low fees, and I would encourage you not to go with safe mode if you're more than 5 years away from retiring, like full retirement. I would make sure you continue to take risk with those funds. I think that's the G fund, I think is what it's called. G, not G mode. Yeah, G is safe mode. The I fund. Thank you. Awesome. I would not go in safe mode unless you're within a 5-year window of when you're going to use the money. Yep, great. Any other questions? Yes. Esports? Yeah. EA Sports is publicly traded. I'll give you my opinion of that stock right now. I will look it up. EA Sports. Let's pull it up here. Electronic Arts is the exact name of the company. Right now, it's trading for $98.70 a share. It's in the middle of its 52-week range. Schwab would give them a letter grade of C. And I don't care about their letter grades. I've made money on Fs and lost money on As. Their price to earnings is 13.83, so you're paying $13 per $1 of profits per year. That's within the range that I think is acceptable. And they are not paying a dividend. So I don't think it's a terrible investment, but I don't know if it's a growth stock. So it would be like a stable investment. And I would want to see this company announce something that would make me say this company is going to grow before I'd invest in it, because they are not sharing profits with their shareholders right now through dividends. So if they are able to share lots of profits, but they're not growing, it's an intriguing investment. Right now, I would not invest in it. But I have invested in stocks like that before when they made an announcement of a breakthrough type of technology, and it's been very good. So good question. Next, you had a question. Yes?
Do all 529s have that equivalent for scholarship?
Yes. The 529 is governed by tax law for the United States, not for state law. So you can pull out the equivalent of an athletic or academic scholarship for any 529 in the United States. Yes, question. Yeah, the ticker symbol. She's asking me to repeat the ticker symbol for the American Funds, Mutual Fund, the Investment Company of America. It's AIV, Victor, SX.
And then thank you. And my second question is, when it comes to stocks, do you think that it is more important to look at if a company is giving out dividends or just with their
Great question. She says, when it comes to stock, is it more important to look at whether the company is paying dividends or what other things should I look at? And so here's how I'd answer that question. And Joe Sengel's method is not the only method, by the way. There's lots of other smarter people. I'm just telling you what's worked for me. I look at the stock first and say, do I like their product? Number two, do my kids like it? That's even more important. And number three, are they profitable? If they are not profitable, then I'm looking at it and saying, do I believe they will become profitable in the future? So I update my investments every year in March, and I publicly disclose them. You can go to iwasbrokenimnot.com, that website, on the back /investments, and download all my investments. I have invested since March in about 10 additional companies. I've purchased stock in Slack Technologies, which is stock ticker symbol WORK, W-O-R-K. I've bought stock in SurveyMonkey. They've went public. I have bought stock in, additional stock in AT&T, Carnival Cruise Lines, and some other stocks. So here's how I evaluate it. Do I like it? Do my kids like it? Number three, do I think it's got future potential for growth? Are they sharing dividends? If so, how much? And then my big number I look at is price to earnings. So the price to earnings is a great way to look at things because it says, what are you paying for this stock? So price to earnings, to put it simply, let's look at it this way. Let's say I had a company that made $100,000 profit a year. $100,000 profit a year. Is that a good company? What if I told you I'd sell it to you for $100,000? Well, the price is $100,000 and the annual earnings is $100,000. So the ratio of price to earnings is 1. Does that make sense? 100,000 divided by 100,000 is 1. So if this EA, Electronic Arts, was 13 times earnings, so that's the equivalent of paying $1.3 million for a company that made $100,000 a year. Is that a good investment? What if it was like Amazon, which is about 67 times earnings? That's like paying, $6.7 million per $100,000 of earnings. Does that make sense? But why are people continuing to buy Amazon stock? They don't pay a dividend because earnings are going up and because they're dominating every industry they go into. Like, for real, it's like unbelievable. And so that's why people are willing to invest in it. So I look at price to earnings. That's one of my biggest things I look at. So, I have also bought an enormous amount of General Motors and Ford stock. Ford stock right now is trading at $9.17 a share, and their price to earnings right now is 7.14. They pay a dividend of 6.54%. That fires me up. General Motors right now is trading at price to earnings of 5.55, and they're paying a dividend of 4.07%. And so that's part of my evaluation technique. Yes, back here, young man. Is gold a good thing? Gold can be a good investment. I recommend it be less than 10% of your overall investments that you have, but it's a great place to start, and I would encourage you to invest in some of that. I invest in the alternative to gold. It kind of looks like a mirror, and it's shiny, and it's silver, and but it's less than 1% of my overall portfolio. But it's a fun way to start to learn investing, so I'd encourage you to do that. That's awesome. Yes. Yeah, so 401k matches. If you have a 401k, 403b, 457, anything like that, and you have a company match, and you don't know for certain that you're getting the full company match, you need to go to page 11 and write down, go to Human Resources tomorrow and make sure I'm contributing at least enough to get the full match. Watch this. Who's under 30 in here? You're under 30. All right. Lucky, right? Okay. Right? Isn't that right? With finances, don't you wish you learned all this earlier? So if you forgo the company match on a dollar for dollar match on 3% of the average pay, If you forego that for 5 years in your 20s, that's a difference of $350,000 in your retirement account at age 65. So you can't afford not to get the free match. It's free money. Okay, I'll answer a couple more questions. Yes?
So if I am 10 to 15 years away from saving for a vehicle, would you recommend investing it like in an
Yes. This is a great question. If I'm 10 to 15 years away from replacing a vehicle, would you recommend investing it? In Joe Sengel's Rules of Investing, yes. And I have. And this is Dawn, who leads the I Was Broke Now I'm Not study, by the way, which will be launching here at Fountain Springs. So I would encourage you to invest it. I have invested it. I mentioned in the message that I have a 1997 GMC 1500 Sierra. Get fired up. Don't make fun of my V6, the most underpowered engine ever put in a truck in America. Right? Watch this. I paid myself the payment after I paid it off in 2004. I kept paying myself the payment. I invested it all. I literally never have to, that money that I invested is replacing every vehicle with cash, brand new or used, whichever I want. I can just pay from the actual profits being cast off from that investment now because I have had it paid off that long. So I encourage you to do that. You might want to invest it with a little less risk, maybe a balance fund or something like that that's balanced between growth and income. But when it gets in the 5-year window of replacing it, you want to start moving stuff to safe mode. Okay, yes. What is my opinion on Walmart stock? You're an employee of Walmart stock. My opinion is Walmart stayed stuck for about 15 years. And then suddenly they got their gear moving in this digital world. And they are currently priced at 23 times earnings. They're paying a 1.81% dividend. I can find better investments elsewhere, so I wouldn't invest in it. But if I had it, I would hold it. Walmart is here to play, and they're going to take on Amazon, and you always need a competitor with a major company, and so I think Walmart will do quite well. But personally, since I'm not in it. So I have to move on. I will stick around after tonight is over to be able to answer other questions. Thanks so much for those questions. Was that helpful at all? Okay. It's a lot of fun. Thank you for asking all those questions. So let's talk about planning and budgeting. This ought to be fun. We're going to go to page 6. Somebody said, no, it's not. That's good. I like honesty. It's great. Okay, we're going to budgeting. It is going to be horrible. Proverbs 21:5 says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. And so when I was reading this Bible, it turns out you can learn a lot when you read the Bible. It's pretty awesome. And I read this, and again, Solomon, just like with Proverbs 14:4, he's doing kind of a compare-contrast, and he's saying you could have two outcomes here. What are the two outcomes you see in this verse? Talk to me. Profit and poverty. Now, profit means money left over. So in our personal finances, we would call that saved money or money we're able to invest, money that exceeded our expenses each month. And again, I think this is true. If you have a choice between profit or poverty, we all choose in profit, right? Okay, so look at this verse. It gives you insight as to what yields profit. What yields profit? Talk to me. Having a plan, the plans of the diligent. So you got to have a plan and be diligent to follow it. So fill those two blanks in on the bottom of page 6. The plans of the diligent lead to profit. Surely as haste leads to poverty. So my question before we dive into budgeting is, do you have a plan for your life? And do you have a plan for your money to support it? Okay? So watch this. As I like to say this way, if you have a plan and you don't follow it, you've just wasted your time. If you have no plan, but you're diligent, you just have a bunch of focus wandering around, right? But if you have a plan and you're diligent to follow the plan, you can accomplish huge things really fast. The plans of the diligent indeed lead to profit. And so that you can do this point that you can write down there on page number 8, or at the bottom of page 6, there must be a plan. There must be a plan. So let's ask some questions, some simple, fast questions. Would you have a wedding without a plan? Anybody been to an unplanned wedding? I have. Woo! It was unbelievable. You're getting married tomorrow? Excellent. All right. So who has young daughters here? Who is it, young daughters? Okay. Do you know the average cost of a wedding in America right now? The latest stat? How much? 10,000? Take it times 3.3, $33,000. That's the average in America. Get fired up. Isn't that amazing? Okay? Yeah. I've told my daughters, one's 5, she turned 6 this week, and the other one's 19. I've said, hey, baby, I'm licensed, ordained minister of the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm doing the wedding. I can afford me. We're getting married in front of a red barn on the farm, and we're going to eat the chickens and their eggs. I won't have to feed them anymore, and that'll be awesome. And we'll buy your dress at Goodwill. We'll get out of here for like $100. How do you think that went over? Like a submarine with screen doors, right? Yeah. Okay, so you got to have a plan. Would you want your surgeon to have a plan? Yes. What if they said, guess who just got off restriction? You know, hey, you nervous? Yeah, so would I be. Have you seen that AT&T commercial where it's not okay to just be okay? That's funny, right? I want them to have like plan A, B through Z, right? I want a detailed plan. So think about that. We want our surgeon to have a plan. We plan our kids' first-year birthday party with great detail. And we would definitely plan out these weddings like crazy. Why would we not have a plan for our money? Jesus spoke to this exact issue in Luke chapter 14, 28 through 30. It's documented. It says, suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Will he not first sit down, watch this, and estimate the cost? What is that? Planning. To see if he has enough what? Money. We're on the right topic. To complete it. For if he lays the foundation and is not able to finish it, everyone who sees it will ridicule him, saying, the fellow began to build and was not able to finish. And so I encourage you to have your plans, your hopes, your dreams, this God-given vision written down. And so let's go to page 7 and let's write down a few of your dreams. Where do you guys want to travel? Talk to me. Europe, Hawaii, Israel, Disney World? Awesome. Do you want to go all the parks there? Magic Kingdom, Animal Kingdom, Epcot? Yeah, you need to go to all of them. What is it? Is it Hollywood Studios? I think it's the 4th one. They have the Tower of Terror there. I put my 4-year-old on that. And I'm over there going, ah! And they got pictures. She's just got a big giant smile. She wasn't scared at all. It was awesome. The Tower of Terror is amazing. Okay, where else you guys want to travel? Australia, yeah. And you might as well go to New Zealand while you're there. Just hit both of them. Awesome. Where else you guys want to travel? Huh? Malta. Write it down. Awesome. Where else? Italy. So you know, one of my dreams was to be able to do that type of stuff. And my daughter, when she graduated high school, I asked her what she wanted to do. She's studying graphic design and art. And she said she wanted to go look at all the art in Europe. And I said, that's a lot of it, so we can't cover all of it. But we went to the 3 big places. Last summer, we took off right after she graduated to London and spent 4 days. And then we took the Channel to Paris, and went to the Musée des Armées and up the Eiffel Tower, which is scarily high, frightening high. I don't know, too high. It made me cry and suck my thumb and call for mom. And it was embarrassing. And you don't think it was that bad? No, but I have an adult onset fear of heights. It's just a problem. And I did see somebody propose to their special someone up there, and she said yes. It was awesome. And then we took a train all the way to Florence, Italy on my 21st anniversary, and went through the bottom of the little Swiss Alps and all that stuff over to Florence and spent 4 days. And then I flew home. And my daughter and my wife went back to Wales. It was awesome. Like the area, territory, is it a country? I don't know. It's part of the UK. Anyhow, it was awesome. And we funded that dream. And it was paid for before we left because we had a plan. And it was awesome. And I encourage you to go. Let's talk about other dreams. Who wants to help your kid or your grandkids with college? Anybody want to do that? Okay, write some of that stuff down. Because remember, if you have a plan for your life, it helps you have the reason to plan your finances. That's why we're doing this right now. Who here wants to be able to give more money away? Anybody want to be able to give more money away? Okay, write it down. Write it down. And who here, you want to start a small business? Anybody want to start a small business or something like that? That's awesome. Write it down. And so I encourage you to go through this and add to it. Add to this list. I'll tell you, me and my wife went through this about 5 years ago. We wrote down some dreams. It turns out we have shared dreams, but we also have individual dreams. Like my dream is to deer hunt 365 days a year. That's my dream. Does that stun anyone that is not my wife's dream? She wants her husband to be delivered of this affliction, right? But my wife, she loves scrapbooking. You know where you print out pictures like it's 1990? And you cut them up and you put them in books. So you guys know what I'm talking about? She goes to Crop Till You Drop weekend events. It's called Crop Till You Drop. And let me tell you how serious she is about it. Over the last 4 years, the first weekend of January, I've had the very tough duty of traveling to Honolulu and speaking in Honolulu, Hawaii. It's been very tough. I had to struggle for Jesus there. But one year, she refused to go with me because it interfered with her scrapbooking weekend. Isn't that crazy? And so when you hear your dreams of your special someone and all that, even though it's not your dream, it will help you have the energy to fund their dream and vice versa. And so she allowed me to build this barn. I love my barn. I'm in my barn every day that I'm home. And then she wanted me to literally like throw money into a hole in the ground. Some people would call it a pool. But I called it throwing money in the ground. And you know what? It turns out I spend more time in that thing than she does, right? But I want you to write down these dreams because it helps power you to do what we're going to do next, which is budgeting. Get fired up. Let's go over to the next page, page 8, and let's talk about budgeting. Here's how you do this. You can do this. Spend your money before the month begins. Fill in that word, before. Everybody say before. Yeah. Now, I know some people are confused saying, Joe, I already spend all my money before the month begins. This isn't very helpful. But I'm talking about planning it. Spending it on paper, or spending it on the spreadsheet before you actually spend it for real. And that's the huge power, spending the money before it actually arrives, before the month begins. And so watch this. Let's think about it. Proverbs 21:5 says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. So if you spend your money in a plan before the month begins, that's kind of part of that planning part, right? And then if you're diligent to follow it, then you're going to have profit. So watch this. What if you choose not to plan your dollars? Which part of that verse are you in? The plans of the diligent lead to profit, or as surely as haste leads to poverty part? You will not wander your way to financial freedom. Money will sprout wings and fly away from you. We've done detailed research on this, right? And so it's very important to understand to spend your money before you get paid, before the month begins, before all those bills show up. And so let's talk about a formula we can apply. It's income minus outgo equals exactly zero. Trademark. Income minus outgo equals exactly zero. Trademark. And the reason I say exactly is I can take the E from exactly and the Z from zero and say it's easy to win with your money. Trademark. No one cares. We'll move on. That's great. No, but maybe you're saying there should be profit here, Joe. There should be money left over. Well, what if I told you outgo included spending money into savings and investments? Then would you agree with me? So watch this. Have you ever thought of that way? Saving money and investing as a bill or a debt you owe yourself? I want you to think of it that way. Because who's going to make you save and invest? Do your kids help you? Does the government help you? Who's going to make you save and invest? Only you. And you, listen, I'm going to say this very firmly. You cannot prosper if you do not save. It's impossible. And the problem is we see the big dream and it costs so much and we feel like we can never get there. So we just say, why bother? And we live for the weekend again. And we go spend it up again. And then we go spend a year's worth of income at the car lot. And then we go do it again. And then we do it again. And then we blink and we're 60. How does that happen? right? So we got to have a plan. And when we talk about spending money into savings, there's 3 categories I encourage you to save for in this little dotted box here on page 8. The first thing you should save for is emergencies. Are emergencies going to happen in your life? Yes. It happened last week to you, I'm sure of it. There's going to be more this week. Get fired up, right? I'm the youngest of 6 boys. My dad said he's going to write a book called Living from Crisis to Crisis, right? My oldest brother threw a hammer in the air and watched it come down and hit him in his own face. It was awesome, right? It was. My twin brother, he and I, the 4th brother was sad that he wasn't the baby of the family anymore, and he's 6 years older than us. And so he was doing this thing one day where he's throwing up baseballs and softballs to himself and hitting them out into the pasture, and he was making us play fetch. And it was like, fetch the balls or I will beat you up. And we're like, okay. And so my twin was super eager to please him. So mid-swing, my twin brother stepped in and caught the bat in his mouth. It was amazing. We have one picture of it. Like his lips are this big. In fact, no joke, it took him like a couple years at the dentist to like get stuff straight. And now as an adult, he went to the dentist and they said, you have suffered a facial fracture at some point in time. And, we didn't know that, because we were broke. So no one went to the doctor. It's like, suck it up, buttercup, let's go, right? But you need to save money for emergencies. And I encourage you to start with one financial goal of savings, and that is 1 month's worth of expenses, whatever that is for your life. So whatever a month's worth of expenses are. So it could be $1,000, $2,500, $21,000. I don't know what your life is, but 1 month's worth of expenses for emergencies, because they're going to happen. The second thing you should save for is something called known, upcoming, non-monthly expenses. These are expenses you know are coming, but they're not monthly, so they tend to sneak up on you, and they usually show up in clumps of 2 or 3, like Christmas, along with the annual life insurance bill, and vacation, and property taxes, and car repair, because your tires are wearing out. Did you know that? Brakes are wearing out. Something in your car is going to break. You should save for it. And so I encourage you, we have a monthly known upcoming non-monthly expenses calculator. Guess where it's located? On the website. It's wildly popular. 3 people per day visit it. It's amazing. And you can type in all the things that are happening that aren't monthly. And the key is to convert them to every paycheck expenses. So you type in Christmas, vacation, property taxes, annual life insurance premium, quarterly auto insurance premium, whatever it is that's not monthly, but you know they're going to happen, homeowners association, whatever they are. And let's say it's $6,000 and you get paid monthly. Well, it'll say monthly, you need to save $500 a month. And so does that make your monthly budget tighter? Yes, but it sure is amazing when Christmas shows up and you're not like going into debt to celebrate the birth of our Savior. That's what people do. Isn't that insane when you think about it? And so it's a very powerful thing. And then the third thing, the important thing you should save for is your dreams. The Bible says, hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is soothing to the soul. And it's very important. And it also says the foolish crave and get nothing, but the desires of the diligent are fully satisfied. And so make sure you have one of your dreams on there as well. Okay? So let's talk about a budget. Now we have free budget tools located on the website. And I've got some sample numbers here. And we're going to prepare a budget together. And this, now listen, a pencil, paper, and a calculator still works. It still does. But this does the math for you, because some of us here, we love math. Like you're so fired up, we're finally to the budget. Like your heart's going pitter-pat. You're like, yes. Yes, who here loves math? You just love it so much. Admit it, CPAs and financial people. Okay, hands down. Now, who here, you believe Satan himself invented math? Okay, so you don't do budgets because you know it requires math. And you're like, well, apparently budgets are from Satan because it requires math. I wouldn't want to do anything ungodly, right? But this does the math for you. So this tool has removed Satan from your finances. Get fired up. And now, are you doing this planning before the month begins or after? Before. Okay, and so we got some income in this example. What's the income in this example? $4,000. So when we put it in there, watch this, it turns yellow because it's saying caution. There's some dollars that do not have a name. And what happens to the money that's not named? It will fly away. So you got to give every dollar a name. And so let's say this is our take-home pay. So let's say we've already contributed to our 401k at work and gotten the match. So we've invested. And so what's the next expense in here? Talk to me. The tithe, right? And so we tithe, and we're tithing off our gross income. And so a lot of people have questions about that. Should I tithe on the gross or the net? And I always respond with another question. Do you want to be blessed on the gross or the net? This will be an argument till Jesus comes back. It will be. I've chosen to tithe on the gross. Does that make sense? Okay, that's just what I've done. And I ain't broke no more. So, I didn't tithe on anything, and I was broke. I started tithing. Crazy things started to happen. I think there's a correlation. All right? So watch this. It does the math for us. And then we've given, we've invested. What's our next thing? We got to save, right? For the emergency fund, we're going to put that in there. And it's doing the math for us. So the next thing is what? Oh, we got to put the mortgage in, get fired up. That took a chunk. And now we get everything in there, and it's overspent by $384.53. Can you live that way, yes or no? Oh, as a church, we're gathered together, and we're like, oh, no, Joe. No, we could never live that way. But your halos are tilted, right? Right? So why? Because I lived that way for years. How do you live with a negative number, spending more than comes in? Yeah, credit cards, like from that kid's show. Swiper? No swiping. Come on, vamonos, everybody, let's go. Right? But I swiped for years. And so let's listen to that kid's show, Dora, and learn from the fox. Swiper, don't swipe. And so here's the power. I can't emphasize this enough. The power of a plan. Because you planned. Planning is before the event happens. Ideally, it's before the event happens. Because of that, you see the obstacle before it happens, which gives you an amazing thing called choices. If you run out of money on the 21st, you have no choice. You're going to be swiping. You got to have gas for the car. But if you see it a whole month ahead, guess what? You can start to make choices early so that you don't end up with that challenge. Does that make sense? And so every month, my bride and I, starting July of 2003, have done this. And so we sit down, thank God for providing again, ask for His direction and leading in how we should manage it, and then we start putting in numbers. And so in this example, now we could either increase our income if overtime's available to us, or we have a little side job or something, or we can cut out outgo. Let's say in this example, I'm a high school teacher and a cross-country coach, and I don't have time to figure out more income this month. And so we're going to cut out some expenses. So what of these three expenses, could we reduce any of them? Spending money, entertainment. Okay, spending money. How much spending money should we cut out? Help me with my budget. Who says all of it? Okay, hands down. The people who just said all of it have identified themselves as savers. Spenders. Is it reasonable for you to live with no spending money for a month? Absolutely not. Let me tell you, spenders, I'm going to speak on your behalf. I'm going to advocate for you. I'm an advocate for spenders. If you take away all of our spending money, we may stick with it for like 5 days. And after that, we're going to find a hidden credit card and show you what spending is. It's going to be an outburst. Get fired up. Is that right? We can't help it. So watch this. The number one reasons why budgets don't work when they actually prepared them is because they lie to themselves when they prepare them. Watch this. Everybody in this room has tried a budget before. And I submit to you the reason it did not work, if it didn't work, is because you lied to yourself when you put it together, and you lied to yourself because you were angry when you prepared it. You're like, that's it? I'm not living this way anymore, ever. That's it. You spend too much at the grocery store. You're going to get $7 for groceries. I can't even get in the freezer. I mean, what's in there? We're going to have mystery meat Tuesday. We're going to have mystery canned item Wednesday. This is going to be amazing. We're going to save a lot of money. And we're going to have no money for groceries. And while we're talking about this, you're in your shop. You know what I'm saying? And so you lie to yourself. How long are you going to stick? Like I've had families who have 3 kids in traveling sports who have wrote their budget and said, we're not going out to eat. And I'm like, yeah, right. And they're like, oh, no, no, no. We're going to go to Sam's Club, and we're going to get a 55-gallon drum of Nutella, and we're going to eat that. It's going to be amazing. And it is amazing, and that sounds amazing. But after the 17th time of climbing in that drum of Nutella, which just sounds amazing, you're going to end up going out to eat. That's going to happen, right? So hear me. When you prepare your budget, do not lie to yourself. So you're lying to yourself if you say no spending money, but can we cut it in half? Okay. And so my basketball game, I want to go to that, right? Entertainment basketball game. Huh? No. I can't go to the foam finger and play the game and all that? That's a bummer. Can I watch it on TV? Okay. Now, I'm going to show you something called negotiating in good faith. If you take away my basketball game and tell me I can watch it on TV, later in this budgeting communication committee meeting, you cannot cut off my TV. Right? You can't hand me a universal remote that you bought me at Walmart and program it to my neighbor's TV and make me watch it through their window. But let me tell you, this is awesome. You can buy a $5 remote, a universal remote, and it comes with the programming instructions of every TV ever made. Did you know that? Have you noticed this? Watch this. Program it to your friend's TV. Go watch the football game with them, and right as they're throwing the big long ball, change the channel on them. Just have it down here. Just change the channel on them. And then when they'll kick the field goal, change the channel again. They'll be like, I don't know what's wrong with this TV. I'm going to throw it out. And you're like, I'll take it. So awesome. I don't know. Ever since I had it, it's never done that. I don't know what's going on. It's amazing. Okay, so maybe $40. Okay, so we go to the movies instead, right? $40. Some of you are arguing about $40, but you can go to the movies for $40. You all sneak food in there anyhow. Okay? Sinners. Okay? This is 2 parents and a kid. Can we reduce money on groceries? Yeah, how? Don't go hungry, right? Go with the list, plan it, right? Coupons, some coupons, yep. Don't leave the spender at home, leave the kids at home, all that stuff. Use cash envelopes, and you can maybe cut out $50. Can you reduce dining out? Yeah? Okay, maybe we can cut that in half. All right, let me give you an idea. I'm going to give you some parenting hacks on reducing food money. Okay, you ready? I'm going to give you one for little kids. I'm going to give you one for teenagers. These are real. These are hacks. You ready? For little kids, 8 years and younger, stop working somewhere near double digits. This is the deal. Tell them when you go out to eat, hey, you can get the Sprite, or you can lay $1 in front of each one and say, or you can choose water and get $1. $1 is cheaper than what they're going to charge you for the soda, and the soda is going to hype them up. And about 50% of the time, they'll take your $1, and you don't have to deal with the sugar craze, and it was cheaper. That's a hack. Isn't that awesome? These are real life with Joe Sangle. It's awesome. All right, here it is for teenagers. Teenagers, if you're going out to eat with a teenager, any of you know that a teenager will cost you enormous amounts of money at a restaurant. And so, especially my daughter who is running 50 miles a week and eats 7,500 calories a day to maintain like 115 pounds. I mean, it's crazy. It's embarrassing, frankly. The sounds coming out of her while she eats is amazing. And for real. Anyhow, this is a great hack. I love this so much. When you go grocery shopping, the cereal boxes are at eye level. But down below, they have like these bushel bales of cereal. It's about the cost of a box of cereal. Buy the bushel bale. When you're getting ready to go out to eat, about a half hour before, set the bushel bale of cereal out on the counter. They will smell it. They're no differentiator of what the food is. They will come in, they'll eat like 6 bowls of it. And then when you go out to eat, they eat a normal amount of food, and they're like, I don't know, I'm just not that hungry. It's awesome. I'm for real. That is an amazing hack. I'm telling you right now. Okay, let's go on. Okay, let's look at the kids' clothing. Can you reduce that some? How? Thrift store, sales, hand-me-downs. Awesome. Maybe we can cut it down to $30 this month. It's got to be real for your life. And then we're $55 away. So babysitting, can we trade with somebody else? This isn't daily child care. It's just for mom and dad to go out. Yeah? Okay, so maybe we can cut it in half. Okay, and then we're $30 away. Can we reduce the emergency fund savings a little bit? Yeah. Hey, listen, what if I told you in this example I had $4 in the bank account? Is it a win that I have $169.47 in savings? Is it a win that I was able to tithe? Is it a win that I was able to invest? Did I get to eat? Is there some fun in the budget? There's some fun. There was some entertainment money. We got to go out to eat a little bit. Had some kids' clothing money a little bit. Watch this. So what would life look like if you did this 1 month? Like if you actually followed it. Would it be good? Okay, let me ask you the next question. What would happen if you got it to exactly 0 every month for the next 12 months and followed it every single month? What would life look like 1 year from now? Peaceful? You'd have some money in savings? You have an emergency fund built up? Would some debts leave your life in the next year? Would that accelerate your ability to save and invest? Okay, watch this. What if you did it for 5 years? You'd be debt-free on everything except for your house. What if you did it for 10 years? Hear me. Even if you haven't bought a house yet, you'd be debt-free, including your house. It took me 10 years and 1 month to pay off my house from the day I started the journey. And now I've done it for 16 years and 4 months. When I find a better way to manage money and honor God with all of it, knowing He owns all of it, I'll let you know what it is. Until then, every single month, I sit down with my bride. We do this. Takes about 45 minutes. We've had some awesome conversations and dialogue and discussions along the way. And we've had lots of negative things happen in life. Is life going to happen? They're going to call and say, hey, you've got some tumors. You got to have surgery right now. And we got to go through major surgery. My wife did. God healed my wife. 10 months later, they recurred. We had to do it again. We went through in vitro. Cost us $18,500. Didn't have a baby. That's kind of awful. Bought a money pit house. That was so bad that my workers walked off the job and said, we will not work on this. This is too dangerous. That was what I wanted to hear. And so I had to literally tear off the roof, including the rafters. Like I had blue sky. Isn't that awesome? I bought a house for $175,000, put $60,000 into it, and sold it for $150,000. Yes. Yes. And in spite of all that, God has been faithful. And I believe, absolutely believe, it's because we followed this process that the plans of the diligent indeed leads to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. I encourage you to follow this, and if you do this for 3 months and make it your new habit, because if you form good habits, they're just as difficult to break as bad ones, right? Okay, so let's talk about debt and talk about killing some debt. Is this helping anybody? Okay, helping 5 people, that's great. Let's talk about debt. Romans 13:8 says, let no debt remain outstanding except for the continuing debt to love one another. And Proverbs 22:7 says, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is servant to the lender. And so none of that sounds very good. So we have a debt freedom date calculator located, guess where? On the website. It calculates it without the house, and if you have a home mortgage, it'll include it as well. And so let's look at this example. Let's say I have some furniture debt, 2 credit cards, a car, and a student loan. Add it all up, it's $34,121. And you put in the real payment you're making, and it says $927 a month is going to debt payments. And so it says that we will be debt-free in about 36.8 months. Now, if you have high-interest credit cards, you need to roll them over to 0% balance transfer credit cards. This is a way to get great traction on paying off high-interest debt. And we keep a running list of those on our website under the Next Steps area. And so we also have a podcast episode coming out here in about a week on 0% balance transfer credit cards. I encourage you to check out. Actually, I think it came out last Monday. And so let's watch how this works. We use the debt snowball technique, which means you say the same payment on all of these, the minimum payment, and any extra money goes to the smallest balance that you owe. And the purpose is that you don't really free money up until a debt is gone. And we want to get debts gone. Who's ready to break up with some debt? Anybody? I mean, what if you woke up tomorrow and you were debt-free on everything? On the count of 3, I want you to make the sound you'd make. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I like it. Hey, when you get debt free, will you call me at the number on the back of the book? 864-332-4151. And when we answer, I was broke, now I'm not, go, woo! Click. Will you do that? We get those calls all the time. It scares our employees crazy. I love it. Okay? It is funny when other people call and we answer, I was broke, now I'm not. And they go, congratulations. Right? I mean, it's awesome. They don't know what to say. But anyhow, this is without any tax refund, no bonus, no found money by budgeting better, no selling stuff, right? Watch this. 125 in 16 months, the furniture leaves. Okay? And we take the money, the 125 that was going to the furniture, the very next month, we add it to the 87. All of these have went down because swiper, no swiping. And in 6 months, credit card 1 is gone. Watch this. And then we add it to the payment to credit card 2, a little over a month. It's gone. And then we get to the car and we're making, let's see, a $723 payment. In 3 months, it's gone. And then we get to the student loan and we call up Sally Mae and say, hey, baby, we breaking up. Isn't that awesome? And watch this. The crazy thing is when you get debt free, except for on all this stuff, that $927 that was going to debt, I know this is stunning, but the very next month after you paid off, you get to keep the $927. Shocking. What could you do? Hey, listen, add up right now in your head the car payments you have, boat payments, four-wheeler payments, Harley payments, right? Credit card debt, furniture debt, I owe mom and dad, brother, sister, friend debt, all the debt. Add it all up. Student loan debt. Yeah. Add all that up. What if you got to keep that money every month? Would that be like the biggest pay raise of your life? Go get your pay raise. It's incredible. And you can be debt free. And if you want to see that example again, we have a YouTube video of that called The Debt Snowball. You can find it on YouTube. And it's about 6 minutes to see that exact example again. Some people have gotten sick of their debt and chopped up their credit cards. And this person spelled no new debt with theirs. And these people burnt theirs. Isn't that awesome? With an oxyacetylene cutting torch. But they're for Georgia, so we'll pray for them. But watch this. Hey, let's ask the question. Should you cut up all your credit cards? Listen, if you use yours with a plan and you do not overspend with them, get all the points you want. But if you can't control them and keep running up a balance, you may need to. I will tell you, I had to cut mine up and throw them away. I remember calling up Capital One. I want to shut down my account. And they said, well, you've been a great customer. I said, I bet I have. And they said, well, you know, turning off your account will affect your credit score. I said, well, having it affects my bank account. And so I said, turn it off. And I'll never forget, when I paid them off, I checked my account online, and they owed me 46 cents. It was awesome. I wanted to call them up. Hello, Capital One. Yes, this is Joseph Sengel, your lender, and you're late in paying me my 46 cents. That'll be a $40 late fee. Jesus loves you. Right? No, don't do that. About 6 years later, I went back and got a credit card, and we've had them for more than 10 years now, and I've never paid a dime of interest. Why? Because my habits had changed. My life had changed. Make sense? So that's awesome. And so we created ways to track debt payoff because, let's be honest, paying off debt can be quite a journey. And so we created something called payoff spectaculars. And so how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so literally, we got on the computer and we put little squares in the shapes of these things. And let's say we bought a minivan for $32,000. Let's do the math here. You take 32,000 divided by 454 squares. Every square equals $70.48. So I made it bite-sized. So every time I free up $70.48, I could either go out to eat or color in a square. What do you think I did? No, I went out to eat. I told you I'm a spender. I discovered the power of working together, and we colored in squares. But we have a whole coloring book of these. Can we admit as adults we still like to color? It's awesome. We have a truck payout spectacular. We have a car payout spectacular. We have a Jeep one for the Jeep lifers. College student loan payoff spectacular. We have a TV payoff spectacular. Why anybody finance a TV, I don't know. But credit card payoff spectacular. This idea went so crazy, we even have a llama payoff spectacular. And that's funny. I don't care who you are. But do you know why I have a llama payoff spectacular? Someone I met along the way financed a llama. And if you financed a llama, there's a special coaching session with me after this. It's going to be very brief. Like, don't do that. We also have savings spectaculars. If you're saving up to pay cash for a llama, or for a Harley, or for a Disney vacation, or cruise, and we have over 100 of those. Guess where they're located? On the wildly popular website. If you download the I Was Broke Now I'm Not app at the App Store, which is free, you can afford that. There's a beta test in it right now where if you owe someone or something, you can take a picture of who or what you owe on, and it will create it for you. So you can have mom stand there and take a picture of her. Stand still. What are you doing? I'm creating a payoff spectacular of you. I'm going to pay you off. And it colors in their face, actually, as they pay them off. It's awesome. Okay? So get debt free, and that's a huge step towards retirement. And so retirement is a big number. Proverbs 13:22 says, a good man, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. So how much money do you need to retire well? $3,000 a month? It's good. Okay, so I want you to think about it. Because even if you're 10 years, 15, 20, 30, 40 years away, the sooner you think about it, the better you can have a plan for it. And so if you answered my question with a lot, that tells me you don't know the number. And we have a calculator. Guess where it's located? On the wildly popular website. Now, I'm going to tell you, I like my calculator. But I also like two other calculators. And you should find the podcast episode that came out about 3 weeks ago. And I'll talk about two other calculators provided by other people. They each have their own unique thing that they can reveal for you. And so I want you, everybody turn page 11 real quick. I want you to write down a website. It's the Social Security website, ssa.gov. Social Security Administration website. Let's all politics removed. Social Security will be there when you retire. That's going to happen. You can record my voice. Come talk to me in 40 years. It's going to be there. You have to make some changes. But every year on or about your birthday, we used to get statements in the mail that said, here's your earnings history. Here's what you can expect to receive at retirement. But because that's very private information, a lot of that was being stolen from mailboxes, so they won't send it to you anymore. And so you can still get that same statement every year if you open your account at ssa.gov. Okay? So once you do that, it will tell you, hey, at retirement age, based on your earnings history, you're going to get paid this much money. Let's say you also have a small pension or a military retirement, and you add it all up, and from Social Security and a small pension, let's say you're going to get like $32,000 a year. Is that an ideal retirement? It's a good start, right? And if you're debt-free, it will last a lot longer. And let's say from your other oxen, the other investments you have, the small businesses, stocks, franchises, real estate, things like that. Let's say you wanted $40,000 additional dollars, okay? And let's say you're going to retire. You want to retire today. It says you're going to need somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million, depending on your rate of return on your investments. You're going to need between $500,000 and $1 million in net worth income producing oxen to retire. Are you fired up? All right, let's look at 10 years from now. Now, I've got 4% inflation. It's averaged around 2.5%, but I like to be conservative. It says in 10 years, you'll need $59,201 to buy what $40,000 you can buy today. So you need between $750,000 and $1.5 million. Woo! Yeah. You should see your faces right now. And 40 years from now, all those who said you're under 30, it's going to be $192,041 a year to buy what 40 can buy today. This is why my dad talks about buying a brand new car made of metal for $3,500, right? But he was sold and he knew Moses personally, right? So, And they just celebrated their 60th wedding anniversary last weekend. We were with them. It was awesome. And so watch this. At 12% return, you need 2.4 million net worth income producing oxen. At 8%, you need 4.8 million. Get fired up. Are you pumped? Right now, we could have a good prayer meeting, right? That says, come on, Lord Jesus, come quickly. But here's how we get there. The first step is knowing the number, and then we lasso the power of something called compound interest. And compound interest, there's a verse, Proverbs 13:11, that says, dishonest money dwindles away. We're going to page 10. Dishonest money dwindles away, but he who gathers money a lot by a lot makes it grow. Oh, you were paying attention. It doesn't say a lot by a lot. But I think many of you, when you saw those numbers, you had a 4-stage thought process you went through. Are you ready? Let's see if I'm right. The first thought when you looked at those numbers was, oh my goodness, that is a lot of money. And then the second thought was, I need to invest a lot of money. And the third thought was, I do not have a lot of money. And the fourth thought was, he needs to shut up. I'm going out to eat on a credit card. This is demoralizing. But it says little by little. Can you do little by little? Have a budget. Put savings. Put investing in it. Cut out spending. And watch this. Little by little, you can watch this. My dad, he had us help plant the cornfields. We hobby farmed 80 acres. And we would put in, a truck bed full of seed. We'd have a truck bed with some bushel bags of seed corn. And we'd plant the seed. And then wait 3 or 4 months, God's blessing upon it. And we would need semis to haul out the harvest. Do you see it? Farmers see this principle of sowing and reaping all the time. But for some reason, if you're not on a farm, you may be disconnected from it. But this is how it works, is you invest little by little. And I'm so grateful it says little by little. And who makes it grow? Well, the verse in the Bible says, I planted the seed, Apollos watered it, but it is God who is making it grow. That's how this happens. So let's say you invested $100 a month in an S&P 500 index fund. And it has very low fees, and you did that for 40 years. So $100 a month times 12 months is $1,200 times 40 years. It's $48,000. But let's say it grew at 12% interest. The S&P 500 fund, S&P 500 has grown at very close to 12% compound annual growth rate for the last 75 years. Okay? So would that $48,000 that you invested grow to? Write this number down in page 10. It's $1,176,477. Get fired up. Hey, paying a car payment of $400? What happens if you pay it off and you invest $400 a month for 40 years? $4.8 million. Do you see it? So those under 30, you can breathe again. You can get there. And I want to show you how this works month by month. So in month 1, and it will never work perfectly linear, but I just want to show this as an example. In month 1, you invest $100, and stay all month long. 12% a year divided by 12 months. It's a percent. So you get $1. Is that dollar earned via method 1, where you work for it, or type 2, where you get paid whether or not you're working? It's type 2. This is Amazon stock pays a dividend or grows. It is Ford stock pays a dividend. Whatever it is, you didn't work for it. It's a small business you built that growed in value because you got more contracts. It's land that you bought that grew in value. Money that you did not work for. You put another 100 in, and you get $201 working for you. And now watch this. This is when it becomes compound interest, because not only do they have to pay for the $200 you put in, they have to pay for the dollar, so you get $2 and a penny. $2 from the 200 you put in, a penny from the dollar you put in. Are you fired up? Yeah. Watch this. It keeps going, and after about 4 months, you're going to have enough to maybe buy a Happy Meal, $6.04. But you got to leave the seed in the ground. So after a year, you're up $68.25 more than you've invested. Can you retire on it? And broke thinking says $68.25. It isn't worth it. I'd rather spend the $1,200. But I would say what the farmer knows. Don't eat the seed. because you will literally be consuming any ability to have a harvest. Watch this. After 5 years, it's $8,167. After 10 years, it's $23,004. And after, 20 years, it's just $98,000. That's all. And then after, 25 years, $187,000. And then it's $349,000. Then it's $643,000. And then it's a number you wrote down of $1,176,477. Are you fired up? What if I'm wrong and you only get 800 grand? You call me and complain? It'll be a good complaining dinner, right? But watch this. We assume this person just really is not a very good investor. Here's why. They never got a pay raise in 40 years. And they never increased their investment in 40 years. Let me ask you a question. How much could you invest if you were debt-free except for the house? How much could you invest if you were debt-free, including the house? And that is a question that captured my attention. And then I embarked upon that journey. And I encourage you to do the same. Because it's not that I'm mad at debt, it's that I'm sad at the opportunity that has been lost. The last thing I want to share with you in the You Can Do This box at the bottom of page 10 is there is no harvest if you do not invest. There's no chance of it. I know many people are praying for an abundant harvest. They're begging the Lord to bless them, yet they have invested nothing. They're not giving, which is a spiritual investment. They are also not investing financially. The Lord cannot bless that. 2 Corinthians 9:6 says, remember this, whoever sows sparingly will reap what? Sparingly. And whoever sows generously will reap generously. And let's add the extra line, and he who sows nothing will reap. You have a better chance of discovering a magical unicorn in your backyard than you do of getting a harvest if you don't invest. And by the way, unicorn is mentioned in the King James Bible 9 times. For real. He hath, as it were, an horn of a unicorn. That's awesome. See, that's special news that you learned here tonight. That is for real too, by the way. That's a special Bible study. I love it. Sparkle Dash is there. Something like that. Anyhow, is that the name of one of them? I don't know what the name of it. No, I got it wrong. Twilight. Twilight Sparkle? Okay, there we go. Awesome. My daughter would be so disappointed I didn't know. Will Rogers says, even if you're on the right track, you'll get run over if you just sit there. And so let's wrap it up. Let's go to page 11 and issue a challenge. And I want you to challenge yourself. I'm going to list some next steps. You can't take 20 next steps tomorrow, but you can take 2 or 3. And so let's talk through some of them. Maybe your next step is to start tithing. Maybe you've never truly tested the Lord. I triple dog dare you to do that. Tomorrow I get on my private jet and fly home. It says American Airlines on the tail. I'll fly with 120 of my closest friends. I get no benefit of you tithing. But I will tell you this, you will and this community will. The second thing is prepare a written budget. Who's going to try a budget for October? You're going to try one. Put some trick-or-treat candy in there, right? And while you're at it, since you might get tricked out on your finances, you might want to put a line item in your budget called We Forgot Something and put $100 next to it because you're going to forget something, okay? And then move high-interest debt to low and no 0% interest. If you have high-interest credit cards, I encourage you to use one of the offers you've got in the mail or go to our website under the Next Steps area. 0% cards are there. Calculate your debt freedom date with and without the house. We also have an early payoff calculator for your house where you can put in the mortgage, interest rate, what you're paying in principal and interest, and what you owe. And you can also say, if I pay $50 extra a month, how much sooner will I pay off? And if I do $200 extra. And it'll also tell you how much interest you'll avoid paying. But do not use that tool unless you want to get fired up. It's amazing how a little bit extra per month can eliminate just years off a mortgage. Calculate the amount you need to retire well. We have a monthly investment calculator as well, and that allows you to be able to say, I've got this much in my retirement accounts, I'm contributing this much per month, my employer's contributing this much. It will tell you whether or not you're on track and what your deficit is if you're not. And the last thing is to participate in the group study. So I'll finish with this. The group study will be launching here with Dawn. Dawn, do you have a specific time that's going to launch? October 15th, 6 o'clock on Tuesdays here at this campus? Okay, 6 o'clock on Tuesdays for 6 consecutive Tuesdays, starting October 15th. And if you want to be a part of that study, you need to know 2 things. One is, on this card, check this box. I want to participate in the 6-session study. And you need a study kit. The study kit, you need 1 per family, and it's a copy of my book, I Was Broke, Now I'm Not, and the study guide. You'll watch me teach via DVD video and then go through some questions. There's additional stuff. The very first lesson is totally new stuff about putting your financial decisions in order. We call it the ladder. There's additional stuff on how to eliminate your debt faster. Investing, insurance. There's a special lesson on insurance. And this is a 6-week study, $30. And you can pick that up as you leave today if you want. Also, we have a couple other resources out at the table. We also have an audio book of that if you'd like to listen on the go. I have a book called Oxen. This is on investing. So if you're in that place where you're trying to get your money working for you, this talks about that. And it also talks about what do you do when you have a great idea, you just don't have the money to make it happen. Well, it turns out there are people who have money, but they don't have the idea. And money will flow to a good plan. And I show you how I've done that. And, I've been able to purchase 3 businesses and start 2 others. And I've been able to use those techniques. And I also show how to track net worth. It's a fantastic book for going to an abundant harvest. And then I have one other resource, and it's for young people, for high schoolers and 20-somethings. And it's really a book I wrote to myself because I had people come up after this event saying, "Where were you 40 years ago?" I said, "I was in kindergarten." But what they're really saying is, I wish I'd known this when I was younger. And so I took the time to write this down to say, how do you prevent money mistakes? What did I wish I knew? And so I titled it, What Everyone Should Know About Money Before They Enter the Real World. And so there's a chapter in there on planning for your life, how to budget, but also on choosing school and how to manage student loans, how to get a good credit score. And we also have a 6-week Bible study that goes with it as well. And my hope was that the parents could go through this study, their youth could go through this study, and it could facilitate a really positive conversation about money in the household. And one of the things you want to do is you want to invest in your kids so they don't boomerang back and you're still providing financially for them when they're 35. Right, parents? Amen. Amen, amen. Okay, so with that, I do encourage you to hand these cards in at the table as you leave so that we can send you all that stuff. Do you want to say anything? Okay, so I'm going to pray us out of here, and then we'll be done. I am going to stick around and answer questions until the last person left, till Chris Swartout, pastor, has kicked me out. All right, let's pray. Jesus, thank you so much for every single person that came out tonight. Lord, I pray that you give them a tremendous return on investment for the time they've invested here. God, on this Sunday night, they could have done countless other things. They chose to come hear your words, your principles, and how they might be able to better their own situation. God, every person in this room has huge dreams. God, I pray you would give us the ability to dare to dream again. And God, I pray you would provide unique opportunities for us to have connections with people who have wisdom. God, I pray for every person in this room to have wise counsel in their life. And I pray that they would be able to fund the craziest dreams that you've given them, and that every step of the way they would choose to live generously, and they give you all the glory and all the credit because it's all for you anyway. God, we love you. Thank you so much for blessing us. In your name we pray. Amen. God bless each of you. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you.